The sky didn't turn dark all at once. It warned them. First came the wind, a restless breeze that tangled hair and sent plastic cups sliding across the deck of the small tour boat. Then the clouds, heavy, thick, swallowing the blue as if something was being erased. Sabrina felt it before she saw it. A chill ran up her arms when the smell of the ocean changed. It wasn't the fresh salt of a peaceful boat ride anymore. It was metallic, dense, charged. Around her, tourists were still laughing, taking pictures, raising drinks for photos they would never get to post. Peter stood a few feet away, leaning against the railing, watching the horizon. He felt it too. His jaw tightened slightly. The sea was shifting, growing restless. A stronger wave hit the hull, then another and another. The laughter started to fade. The captain shouted something, but the wind swallowed the words. The boat tilted, not like a normal wave. It felt as if the ocean had decided to flip the world upside down. Sabrina grabbed for the railing, but her fingers slipped. The rain wasn't falling anymore. It was attacking, tiny frozen needles against her face. A scream split the air, then another. The deck vanished beneath her feet. She felt the drop before the impact, and then the water swallowed her. Cold, heavy, violent. It wasn't like diving into a pool. It was like being pulled into something alive. The shock stole her breath before she even understood what was happening. When she opened her eyes, there was only dark green water and frantic bubbles racing upward. The world spun. There was no up, no down. Something slammed into her leg. Pain. She tried to swim, but her life vest caught on something, rope, debris, she couldn't tell. Panic rose faster than the water. She pulled. Nothing. Pulled again. The salt burned her throat. Her instinct screamed, breathe. But breathing meant death. Her heart pounded so hard it felt like it would tear through her chest. Her lungs began to burn, a deep, desperate fire. Her body shifted into survival mode, pure instinct. She thrashed, feeling fabric rip. The vest tore on one side, not completely, just enough. She broke free, swam or tried to. Her arms felt impossibly heavy. Her soaked clothes dragged her down. Every movement demanded twice the strength she had left. She thought she was swimming upward. Then her head slammed into something solid, the hull. Disorientation exploded inside her skull. Pressure built inside her chest. She didn't know how long she had. Seconds, an eternity. Her mind began to grow strangely calm. And that's where the real danger lives, when the brain starts to accept. An image crossed her thoughts, something ordinary, sunlight on her face, safety, warmth. No, not now. She kicked with everything she had left. An opening, light, bubbles rising faster. She followed the bubbles, followed the light, and when she finally broke through the surface, air rushed into her lungs like fire. She coughed, choked. The ocean filled her mouth again. A wave crashed over her. Then another. She saw pieces of the boat scattered like broken toys. She heard someone screaming. Maybe it was her. The sky was too gray, too wide. She tried to float, but one arm barely responded. Her ankle throbbed violently. Another wave dragged her farther from the wreckage. Exhaustion settled in for real now. Every time her head slipped underwater, the idea of just stopping felt tempting. Just for a second. Just close your eyes. But her body kept fighting, even when her mind began to fade. She didn't know how long she was tossed like that, spun, dragged, thrown between water and sky. The world became a blur of gray and green, until suddenly the ocean wasn't so deep. Her knee hit something hard. Sand. A wave pushed her forward, then another, and finally her body gave up. The last thing she felt was sand scraping against her cheek, and the distant sound of the storm moving away. Darkness. When Sabrina opened her eyes, there was no wind, no screaming, only the steady rhythm of waves breaking against the shore. She was lying face down, her cheek pressed into wet sand. salt still burning her mouth. Every muscle in her body ached, as if she'd been twisted and wrung out. She tried to move and a sharp pain shot through her ankle. Air! I need air! She rolled onto her side, coughing, spitting water, trembling. The sky above her was a cruel, peaceful blue, as if nothing had happened. She slowly pushed herself upright. White sand, endless ocean, no boat, no people. Her stomach dropped, and then she saw him. A few yards away, partially covered by the foam of the tide, someone lay motionless. Peter. She didn't know his name yet, only remembered the serious expression he wore on the deck. She crawled toward him, ignoring the pain in her ankle. "Hey! Hey!" No response. Fear is physical. It tightens your chest. It makes your hands shake. It shrinks the world down to a single point. She turned him over with effort. His face was pale, his lips slightly blue. She pressed her hand against his chest. "Please." 1 second that felt endless. Then, movement, a violent cough. Water spilling from his mouth. He gasped for air with a raw, desperate sound. Sabrina closed her eyes for just a moment. They were alive, but completely alone. If your heart is racing right now, imagine waking up somewhere unknown without knowing who survived. If stories like this pull you in, make sure you're subscribed, because this is only the beginning. The next few hours passed in stunned silence. The sun climbed higher. Thirst began to creep in. Peter sat up slowly, dragging a hand across his face. "Where are we?" She looked around. No signs of civilization. The island seemed too small to be inhabited and too large to search quickly. Dense palms, thick vegetation, sounds in the forest that appeared and vanished too quickly to identify. The fear wasn't coming from the storm anymore. It came from the unknown. They walked the shoreline searching for debris, found broken wood, a life vest, an empty cooler, no radio. No flares, no other survivors. The silence grew heavier. "We need fresh water before anything else," Peter said, his voice steadier than he felt. Sabrina nodded, watching, calculating. The sun began to burn against their skin. Her ankle was swelling. They had to move before their bodies started to fail. The island didn't feel hostile, but it didn't feel welcoming either. Inside the forest, the air changed. More humid, warmer. The smell of crushed leaves and damp soil. A branch snapped somewhere between the trees. They both froze. Their hearts quickened. That wasn't the wind. Something was moving. Nature doesn't have to be evil to feel threatening. It simply exists, and you are the intruder. By nightfall, all they had was a makeshift shelter built from branches and broad leaves. The fire took time to catch. When it finally did, the flame looked too small against the darkness of the forest. The night sounds began. Insects. Something heavy shifting in the distance. The ocean, unseen now but present. Sabrina felt fear come in quiet waves. Peter noticed. Without a word, he shifted slightly closer to the entrance of the shelter. It wasn't heroism, it was instinct. She saw that. He wasn't trying to impress her, he was trying to protect her. And on that first night, it wasn't love that was born. It was respect. But the island wasn't finished with them. In the middle of the night, a different sound echoed. Closer, lower, a deep growl. Sabrina opened her eyes in the darkness. Peter was already awake. The fire was fading, and something was circling outside. Would you stay awake all night or risk falling asleep? Tell me in the comments what you would do on that first night, and stay with me. Because in the next chapter, the island will demand more than courage. It will demand sacrifice. The growl wasn't loud. It was low, deep, too close. Sabrina opened her eyes before she even understood she was awake. Her body still ached from the shipwreck, muscles heavy, throat dry as sand. The fire was almost out, only faint red embers pulsing in the dark. Peter was already sitting up, completely still, his eyes fixed on the black line of the forest. The sound came again. It didn't feel like an attack. It felt like observation. Something was circling. The night air was damp and cold at the same time, the kind of cold that doesn't come from temperature, but from fear. Sabrina felt her heart begin to pound too fast. It wasn't just danger, it was the memory of the ocean still living inside her, that feeling of losing control. She forced herself to breathe slowly, leaves being pressed down, footsteps, heavy. Peter grabbed the thick branch he had set aside earlier. It wasn't a real weapon, but it was something. He didn't look back. "Stay behind me." It wasn't harsh, it was automatic, and Sabrina realized how different that sounded from anything she'd heard in years. No hesitation, no performance, just instinct to protect. The growl stopped, but the presence didn't. A few seconds that felt like minutes. Then the sound moved away, slow, heavy, silence again. But now the silence was worse. They didn't sleep after that. When the sun rose, reality hit harder than the storm. Thirst. Sabrina's throat ached. The taste of salt still clung to her mouth. Her body was dehydrating too fast. Peter felt it too. He ran his tongue over cracked lips. "We need fresh water today. Not tomorrow. Not later. Today." The heat came early. The sun reflected off the white sand like a cruel mirror. Every step made Sabrina's ankle protest. She tried to hide it. She failed. Peter noticed. "Is it getting worse?" She hated sounding weak. "I can walk." But the way she shifted her weight said otherwise. They entered the forest again. The air inside was thick, the smell of crushed leaves, warm earth, something sweet from ripe fruit high above. Insects buzzed near their ears. Her body, still recovering from almost drowning, made everything feel heavier, harder. Sabrina started observing details, the slope of the land, greener vegetation in one direction. "If there's fresh water," she murmured, "it'll be lower, downhill." Peter looked at her, not doubting, evaluating. "Then we go down." That's how it started, not attraction, trust. But the island didn't make anything easy. After nearly an hour walking under the heat, the world began to tilt. Sabrina's vision flickered, black dots dancing at the edges, sound growing distant. She tried to take one more step. The ground rushed up too fast. Peter caught her before her face hit the dirt. "Hey! Hey! Look at me!" Her breathing was uneven. Her body was still paying for the ocean. Dehydration, strain, trauma. The world began closing in around the edges. Peter felt fear rise inside him like a wave, not fear of the island, fear of being alone there. He leaned her gently against a wide tree trunk. "Stay with me. Just breathe." He hated that he had nothing to give her, no medicine, no solution, nothing but himself, and right then, that was everything. A few minutes later, her eyes focused again, embarrassment mixed with frustration. "I'm slowing you down." He answered too quickly. "You're not a burden." Silence, and for the first time, she believed him. They continued, slower now. Then they heard it, not a growl, not leaves, water, a thin, almost invisible sound, a quiet thread of movement hidden beneath the forest noise. They looked at each other, ran, or as close to running as they could manage. Between moss-covered rocks, a small stream trickled down, not a river, just a narrow flow. But it was real. Sabrina almost cried as she dropped to her knees. The water was cold, sweet. When it touched her lips, it felt like her entire body waking up again. Peter drank too, but less. He was watching, always alert. The relief didn't last long, because around the edge of the water were marks in the dirt. Tracks, large, deep. The same creature from the night before likely came here, the water that saves, also attracts. Sabrina saw it too and understood. Survival meant sharing territory. If you were there, would you share a water source with a wild predator or risk searching for another? Tell me what you would do. I want to know how you'd survive this island. And if this story has you hooked already, stay until the end, because what happens next will change the way they see each other forever. The sun was high when they decided to head back to the beach. Peter walked slightly ahead now, not out of dominance, out of caution. That's when it happened. A sharp crack, a branch snapping, then a quick movement between the trees. It wasn't a direct attack, it was proximity, too large to be anything small. Sabrina froze. Peter slowly lifted his arms just slightly, trying to appear larger. The silence stretched tight. Then the creature stepped partially into view. Not a monster, but a large, wild cat, lean, focused, calculating, its eyes locked onto Peter's. There was no hatred there, only assessment. They were in its territory. The air felt heavy. Sabrina felt panic rise again, just like the ocean trying to swallow her. Peter took one slow step to the side. No sudden movements, no challenge. The animal watched, the wind shifted, and after a few endless seconds, the cat stepped back, then disappeared into the trees, but the message was clear. The island wasn't neutral. It demanded awareness. When they finally reached the beach, Sabrina's body started shaking. Not from cold, from emotional release. Peter realized too late how much worse her ankle had become. The swelling was obvious, the color wrong. She tried to take another step. She couldn't. The pain was sharp and immediate. Peter felt his stomach tighten. If she couldn't walk, everything changed. He looked at the tree line, then at the ocean, then at her. And for the first time, something hit him with brutal clarity. He wasn't just fighting to survive anymore. He was fighting to make sure she did. And the island wasn't done testing them yet. Sabrina's ankle didn't get better, it got worse. The swelling was more obvious now. The skin stretched tight and hot to the touch. Every time she tried to put weight on it, pain shot up her leg like an electric current. She tried to hide it. Peter noticed. He knelt in front of her, examining it carefully. He wasn't a doctor, not an expert, but he knew enough to understand this wasn't just a mild sprain. You can't keep walking on this. She looked out toward the ocean instead. The horizon felt cruelly far away. Then we wait. But waiting meant relying on luck, and they had already used too much of that in the storm. Peter thought about the water source, the tracks around it, the wild cat in the trees. He thought about fever, and he made a decision. I'm going to head up the east side of the island. I saw some different plants up there yesterday. Maybe I can find something for the swelling. Her chest tightened. Going alone meant risk. That part of the forest was denser, darker, full of sounds that couldn't be identified. You don't have to, she said, even though she knew he did. He looked straight into her eyes. There was no heroism there, just choice. I do. Silence. The morning breeze lifted strands of her hair, the scent of salt mixed with dry leaves. She felt something shift inside her. It wasn't attraction. It was fear of losing him. If you were in her place, would you let him go alone or insist on going with him, even injured? Tell me what you would do. I want to know how you'd handle this island. Stay with me, because what happens on that climb changes everything between them. Peter stepped into the forest with a sturdy branch in his hands. Every step was calculated. The ground was uneven, exposed roots, loose stones, insects darting too fast to follow. The air was heavier there, humidity clung to his skin. He listened to everything, leaves brushing, branches snapping, his own heartbeat. He wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid of coming back and not finding her there. The image of her collapsing earlier wouldn't leave his mind. He picked up his pace. Climbing was harder than it had looked from the beach. The terrain tilted sharply in some places. In others it was slick and unstable. A sound to his right. He froze. Nothing. He exhaled slowly, kept going. Higher up, the vegetation changed. Broad, thick leaves, small purple flowers scattered between them. He knelt, remembering something he had once read about anti-inflammatory properties in certain tropical plants. He wasn't sure, but he had to try. As he tore a few leaves free, a sudden noise behind him locked his body in place. Not the wildcat. Smaller, faster. He turned slowly. A group of monkeys watched him from the trees, curious and alert. He released a slow breath, but the tension didn't leave. The island never let you fully relax. On his way down, the sky began to shift. Clouds again, not another storm, but rain. And rain meant the ground would become even more dangerous. He quickened his pace. One wrong step. The rock gave way. The world flipped too fast. He slid several feet down the slope, slamming his shoulder into a thick root before he managed to stop himself. Pain exploded instantly. Sharp, burning. He stayed on the ground for a few seconds, fighting to catch his breath. If it had been steeper. He closed his eyes briefly. He couldn't get hurt now. He couldn't. He pushed himself up, ignoring the throbbing in his shoulder, and kept going. Back at the beach, Sabrina stared at the tree line. Time feels different when you're waiting for someone to come back. Every sound feels like bad news. She hated not being able to go after him. Her ankle throbbed constantly now. The sun began to disappear behind clouds. The wind shifted. Fear started to grow. What if he didn't come back? What if the wild cat was still nearby? What if the island decided to take someone else? Loneliness is more terrifying when you already know what it feels like to almost die. She wrapped her arms around her knees, trying to steady her breathing. A branch snapped near the edge of the trees. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Another sound, footsteps. She grabbed a piece of wood, and then he appeared through the leaves, sweaty, scratched, breathing hard, but alive. The relief was so overwhelming it nearly made her cry. He walked toward her and knelt down. "I found something. I don't know if it'll work, but it's the best we've got." She looked at his shoulder. "You're hurt." He shrugged, trying to dismiss it. "Just a scrape." It wasn't, but he didn't say that. She saw it anyway, and in that moment something shifted. She saw the risk written all over him, saw how much worse it could have been because of her. He crushed the leaves, mixed them with a little water, and gently applied the paste to her ankle. His touch was steady, careful. She inhaled sharply when the cool mixture met her heated skin. It burned at first, then soothed. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was charged. "You could have really gotten hurt," she murmured. He lifted his eyes to hers. No hesitation. "I know." Light rain began to fall. Not heavy, just steady. They sat there together, listening to water touch sand. And Sabrina realized something with sudden clarity. He wasn't there out of obligation. He was there because he chose to stay. And maybe, without even realizing it, she had already made that same choice. But the island wasn't finished with them, because that night, the fever began. And it wasn't hers. And Sabrina would have to decide how far she was willing to go to save him. Stay with me until the end of this story, because rescue may be closer than they think. The fever started in the middle of the night. Peter was restless before Sabrina fully realized why. His breathing turned uneven. His skin felt too hot. When she pressed her hand to his forehead, the shock was instant. Hot. Too hot. "No. Don't do this to me." "Not now," she whispered, more to herself than to him. The shoulder he had injured in the fall was swollen. A cut that once looked minor was now red and angry. Infection. His body was fighting something, and she knew, out here, without antibiotics, without a hospital, a fever could turn serious fast. The fear came rushing back. But this time it wasn't the ocean. It was the thought of losing him there on the sand, after everything they had survived. Morning arrived heavy. Clouded sky, still air. Peter tried to stand. He failed. "I'm fine," he lied, his voice rough. She held his face firmly. "You're not." And for the first time since they woke up on that beach, the roles shifted. Now she had to decide. If you were in her place, would you risk going deeper into the forest alone to find something that might help, or stay afraid to leave him vulnerable? Tell me in the comments, how far would you go for someone you've only known a few days, but who already means everything? Sabrina didn't have a choice. She needed more of those leaves, maybe cleaner water, maybe anything that could help break the fever. Her ankle still hurt, but less than before. The mixture had worked, at least a little. She helped Peter settle under the makeshift shelter. "I'll be quick." He grabbed her wrist with more strength than she expected. "Don't go too far." She nodded, but she knew she might have to. The forest felt different that day, quieter. And in nature, silence is rarely a good sign. Every step was measured, her breathing controlled. The branch she used for balance now doubled as protection. She followed the path toward the water source. But before she reached it, she heard it. A sharp crack, then another. Not light, heavy. Something large was moving. She froze. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Slowly, she turned. Between the trees, a few yards away, it stepped into view. The same wild cat, but closer now. Fully visible, muscles moving beneath its skin with predatory precision, its eyes locked onto hers. This wasn't curiosity, it was assessment. Her entire body went cold. "Don't run!" Her mind screamed it, but instinct wanted to flee. The animal took a step forward. She took one back, another step from it. The air felt impossible to pull into her lungs. She tried to make herself look bigger, raised her arms slightly, kept eye contact, but the cat lowered its body, attack stance. And instinct won. She turned and ran. Her ankle screamed in protest. The sound behind her was immediate. Fast, light, but powerful. It was chasing her. The uneven ground nearly sent her falling twice. Branches slapped her face, scratched her arms. She didn't look back. She just ran. The growl echoed closer now. Too close. Something brushed her leg. Maybe vegetation, maybe not. Panic consumed everything. Her lungs burned. The shelter was ahead. She could see the strip of sand through the trees, just a few more yards. She stumbled. The world tilted. She hit the ground hard, scraping her arms against rough earth. The sound behind her stopped for half a second, long enough for her to know. The animal was preparing to leap, and then a shout tore through the air. Not hers, Peter's. He came limping from the beach, holding a burning branch, his face pale with fever, sweat shining on his skin, but his eyes steady, determined. He placed himself between her and the animal. The cat stepped back at the sight of fire. It growled, low, intense. Peter moved forward slightly, even though he was visibly weak. The animal watched. The fire crackled. The wind shifted again. Seconds stretched endlessly. Then, the cat backed away, slowly, until it disappeared into the trees. Silence returned, but it trembled. Sabrina stayed on her knees in the sand, breathing like she was still underwater. Peter let the branch fall and nearly fell with it. She rushed to him. "You shouldn't have come." "And leave you alone?" he answered, barely able to catch his breath. The fever made his body shake. She held his face in her hands. The fear was different now. She had almost died. He had almost collapsed trying to save her. And in that moment, they both understood something neither of them was ready to say out loud. They weren't surviving for themselves anymore. They were surviving for each other. She helped him back to the shelter. The sky slowly began to clear. The danger had passed, but the warning remained. The island might be beautiful, but it wasn't safe. And that night, as his fever finally began to ease just a little, Sabrina held his hand, not out of fear, but because she needed to feel that he was still there. If you made it this far, comment, "I survived," and stay with me until the final chapter, because the ending may not be exactly what you expect.